Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of Soldier Talk the podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant McPherson, and on this show we discuss military topics with current and prior service members. Today I have a different type of video for you guys. We're gonna be doing a tour through the Airborne Museum. So I just want to kind of take you guys with me today. Keys. I don't want to forget my keys. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna take a tour through the museum today, you guys. Just have a different type of video for you guys today. You know, this the outside of the museum right here. I got scheduled for a tour at 10 this morning. So I just want to show y'all some of the stuff that they got in here. This is the 82nd Airborne Division War Memorial Museum. Kind of take you guys in here with me to kind of get some footage. How you doing? Get some footage. Hey, how you doing? You still remember?
Yeah.
Okay. I got a mic. If you don't mind, you wear it for the video.
No problem.
Okay. There you go. Just put it on the inside. That's good.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so this is my first time being in this museum. Just want to give the people a tour of what's all in the museum, sir.
Yeah, we'll give you a tour of the area, give you an idea of what a history behind our museum, a history behind our division. And when I say our, I'm also a former member of the 82nd. Having arrived here the first time in October 1969, left in 1972, got out, did some things, came back in the Army, and came back to the 82nd in 1997 and retired 2 years later. So my first assignment was 82nd, last assignment was 82nd, all the way from the beginning. And I'm still with the 82nd because I work here.
Yeah, sir, I see the movie over there playing, so I don't know if that's the film you was talking about? Okay.
Yeah. We can always ask the gift shop to start it up again.
Okay. So, supposed to watch that film first, right?
We can if you want to, depending on you guys.
How long has it been on?
About 5 minutes. We can restart it.
How long is it?
25 minutes.
Okay. Nah, we ain't gonna catch everything. We ain't gonna catch the whole.
Okay.
I'll show the people just a little bit of it. Yeah, so if y'all want to see just a little bit of the film, hold on, this like the theater part right here. Yeah, it's like a film showing. I don't know if y'all want to look at it just a little bit. Probably can't hear it.
Oh dear. You look tired. Oh, poor baby. What time did you get out of here?
Yeah, so that's the film. Y'all probably ain't
How
gonna
was
see
it?
the whole thing, but yeah, so that's the
No.
film right there. It's a 25-minute long film.
Yeah, we get out of here.
Y'all probably ain't gonna catch the whole
Quarter
thing.
of 8.
So we're gonna go ahead and start the
I
tour.
was home by
So y'all
8:30.
see some of the stuff in here.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm ready when you are, Chief.
All righty.
Okay.
The history of the 82nd goes all the way back to World War I, 1917. The United States enters World War I, and they start to open basic training camps throughout the United States. One such training camp would be opened north of Atlanta and be called Camp Gordon. Now, a lot of people today think that that's where should be in Augusta because that's where Fort Gordon is at. Well, the name of Camp Gordon was recycled for World War II, but this one was north of Atlanta, and that's where the 82nd was activated on the 25th of August of 1917. Back in World War I, when the people were drafted, we only had the National Guard and the active army. We had no reserve organizations. So all of these people that were drafted in the National Army. So the division commander at the time was told that all 48 states were being represented. So the draftees came in from all the 48 states. If it would have happened here at Fort Bragg, for example, the people would come from North Carolina, South Carolina, and maybe Virginia, and that's it. So the Colonel Swift, who was the division commander, Major General Swift, who was the division commander, decided to, hey, nicknames build esprit de corps. So he lets the people of Atlanta know that all 48 states are being represented and to give us a nickname. There was a young lady, Ms. Vivian Godwin, who suggested All-American. So it was decided that that was the name this new division would have. And as we walk along, you'll see a portrait of Ms. Vivian Godwin. Now, the trench, there was a lot of things. We're going from old school of fighting to new school, new century, old warfare, machine guns, artillery, caused a lot of casualties. And out of World War I, we get Alvin C. York from Pall Mall, Tennessee, who was a corporal at the time, received the Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor. What did he do? All he did was capture over 120 Germans by himself, and all he had was a pistol and 2 magazines. As we move into the World War I section,
Okay.
in Italy, the 82nd has to get ready once they fight, and they're the first American unit to go into Naples and perform occupation duty. But now they have to start getting ready for the Normandy operation that had been selected already months before. But General Clark told General Ridgway, I need a parachute infantry regiment to help me here in Italy. So the 504th stays back in Italy and fights while the 82nd moves out, goes into Ireland, Scotland, and then into England to prepare for the Normandy operation. And if you remember seeing a picture of Colonel Tucker getting on the aircraft for Sicily, this is the jump jacket that he wore on that airborne operation. So the 82nd is training in England, ready for Normandy. The 504th comes up from Italy into England in March of 1944, but they had a lot of casualties. And it was decided during this time frame that there would be 3 parachute infantry regiments jump into Normandy for the 82nd and the 101st. But the 82nd only had 1 parachute infantry regiment, the 505, because the 504th, was recovering from casualties they had suffered in Italy, and the 3rd regiment was the glider regiment, the 325. So it was decided then that the 507th and the 508th, who were in England, would be attached to the 82nd. When they jump in, there's a heavy fighting, and this is when we get one of the Medal of Honor recipients from the 507th, Private Joe Gandera. About a few years back when President Obama was still in office, he upgraded 28 Distinguished Service Crosses, and out of those 28, we received 2 of them. Private Joe Gandera was one of them. Another Medal of Honor recipient was Charles de Glopper of the 325. They fought, they paid the ultimate sacrifice, and they were honored with the Distinguished Congressional Medal of Honor. And here is part of the 507th and the 508th. Their unit patches. Silver Star belonging to First Sergeant Leonard Funk. He received the Silver Star for his actions in Normandy. Transported 60 millimeter mortars. And it is that their actions when they fought in Saint Mary-Église that the French mayor of Saint Mary-Église got with Charles de Gaulle, President or General de Gaulle, and the 82nd was given the French Protégé. And it is to be worn by 82nd soldiers till forever. This is part of a glider that was used to go, the type of glider that we used into Normandy. This particular one was a trainer and stayed here in the Fort Bragg area, but you have an idea as to how sturdy it was. And it would hold a Jeep, it would hold a 75 millimeter howitzer, or a crew of 12.
So what is this right here, Chief? This was an airplane?
It's a glider.
Okay.
And I'll show you what they do, because it's being pulled by a C-47 for more people to go in. But the problem is with the weight of this and the weight of the aircraft that is being towed, it would lower the number of people jumping out. And it was a good idea. Now, the soldiers in World War II, especially the airborne soldiers, some of them had fiancés here in the United States, and some had a few fiancés fall in England. The reserves were white at that time, white nylon. They would remain white till about 1985 when they went from white to OD. When I used to give my jump master brief, I would tell my jumpers, if you get hurt, pop your reserve, we'll come and get you. But when they went to OD, it became a little bit harder. Gerald Bonsanto, the 307th Airborne Medical Company, goes into Normandy, gets wounded, but he has a fiancée back in the United States. So he gets a reserve, keeps it, sends it to her, and to honor him, his fiancée made this wedding dress out of a reserve parachute.
Dang.
Now we have another wedding dress in the back. This would belong to a glider artillery person. The glider field artillery battalion comes in at about 5 o'clock in the morning of June 6th. They use the same drop zone as a landing zone. And this soldier found a reserve, kept it, goes back to England after spending 33 days in Normandy, and he gives it to his fiancée, which was British. She had wanted from the beginning a white wedding dress. Her sisters told her, you can borrow mine. She goes, no, I want my own. Finally, she gets the reserve parachute and makes a wedding dress out of it. And we had it on display here. And on the 75th anniversary of D-Day, that lady was here to see the dress that she wore, that her husband had gotten for her from Normandy. Mm-hmm. These are assault, dummies used by the Americans and the British. Although these two were not used in World War II, they would be post-war. If you ever see the movie The Longest Day with John Wayne, and they start throwing Ruperts, this is what they were talking about. Captured German equipment, American equipment. One of the parachutes that was jumped into D-Day, jump smock. After 33 days of fighting, the 82nd goes back to England to rest, recuperate, prepare for their next airborne operation, which would be into Holland. And here, but before we go ahead, here is a flag that flew over Saint Mary-Église. Colonel Krause of the 505, 3rd of the 505, told his soldiers, I'm only going to give you one order. Meet me at Saint Mary-Église. Saint Mary-Église would be the first town liberated in France. But this is a staff flag, which means your flag staff goes through here, and you put it on your flagpole, on your flag staff. St. Mary has what they say is the first flag that was flown, but that is a flagpole, and it's got the grommets. But Colonel Krause had told us, no, this is the first one that flew when St. Mary got liberated. Now, like I had mentioned about Holland, this is a glider. This is the same thing.
Okay.
It's being pulled by a C-47 or a C-46, and it's released and it glides its way down. The problem in Normandy, this is the first time that the Americans had used gliders. The British had used them gliders before. They had their own gliders. But the thing is that very made out of canvas and everything. And what the Germans did, they put telephone poles, which they call the Ronald asparagus, and when they're coming in at night or early morning, there was a lot of casualties. In Holland, this operation was on a Sunday afternoon around 2 o'clock, and the gliders were able to come in and land. There were some problems for some of the gliders, but it gives you an idea of what the gliders look like. And it is here that we receive another Medal of Honor recipient, Private John Towle of the 504th. What did he do? All he did was go up against 2 tanks and took them out before they got him.
So what you mean he went up against 2 tanks?
He fought with them, against them. It was him and the tanks.
Just him? I'm talking about like...
Yeah, that's him.
He didn't have nothing...
Well, he had bazookas and everything, but he didn't have nobody behind him. No squad, no platoon, no company.
Okay.
Now, and also, after they jump into Nijmegen, they, a few days later, they need to cross the Wall River. So the Americans had one end of the bridge, and the Germans at the other end. So what do? The 504th under Major Julian Cook row boats across. Now, we hear in the movies, we see the video where it says, they started out with 24 boats, and the first crossing, they were at 50%, 12 boats left. And then Major Cook started to get it on the ground and everything to start getting their act together. But it doesn't talk about the 307th Engineers going back to bring the rest of the 504th and make 3 other trips. He received the Distinguished Service Cross. General Gavin had, at the time, after Italy, Colonel Gavin gets promoted to brigadier. He's then moved up to become the assistant division commander, and during Normandy, he's the commander of the Airborne force, because you have an airborne force, glider force, and seaborne coming in through the beaches. Ridgway decides to jump in with Gavin, and so Gavin is still a 1-star, Ridgway is still the 2-star. After Normandy, it was decided that the Americans, because we had the 82nd, the 101st, the 17th, 508 in England, but without an American command. So it was decided that they were going to activate an airborne corps, and Ridgway became the 18th Airborne Corps commander, which elevated Gavin to be the division commander, even as a 1-star. So this General Gavin had a Dutch advisor, and I can never pronounce his name correctly. Artie Bistever, as you can see right here, his name. So maybe you can show it. He has this Dutch advisor, and in the picture up over here, this man with what I call the Tom Selleck mustache, that's him right there. He is the most highly decorated Dutch officer that they've had. So when we have the Dutch soldiers come in, they come in and they look at the jacket, helmet, binoculars. So the 82nd fights in Holland, typical uniform worn by American 82nd soldiers. This is Gavin's jump smock. Now, it is this frame. Those that were for the Allies would put orange armbands to show their support. This is General Gavin's boots that he wore during World War II.
I got a question, Chief. So how do y'all get these artifacts?
Either the individual or their family members donated to us.
Okay.
And because Gavin was in the 82nd, after the war, he donated a lot. It was his idea that the 82nd have a museum. Okay. While they were in Germany pulling occupation duty. Okay. So they go to France to rest, recuperate after the Holland operation, and unfortunately they thought everything was going good. We might be able to be home by Christmas, but Hitler decides to sweep across Belgium to try to capture the Belgian city of Antwerp, and the Battle of the Bulge begins. The 82nd gets the call that they have to move out at a moment's notice, and they got 12 hours, and 12 hours later they left. Their initial order was to go to Bastogne, but before they would get to Bastogne, they were supposed to stop, relay message back, and they were redirected to another location, and the 101st goes into Bastogne. And we all know what happened to the 101st in Bastogne. They get surrounded, and they get a lot of casualties. The thing is that during this time frame, it hadn't been that cold in Belgium. But once the 82nd and the other soldiers started to move in, and after they got rid of their cold weather gear, it started to snow, and it was bitter. So here they are. You'll see a lot of soldiers not wearing all of their gear. You know, here's Bernard Hout of the 325, which epitomizes the spirit of the 82nd. He has a machine gun nest, and a tank comes up. Tank commander pops his head. Hey, is there any place I can hide? And he goes, yeah, you can hide behind me. I'm the 82nd, and this is as far as these people are coming. So it goes to show you.
Yep.
So it snows and everything, and this is where we get our another Medal of Honor recipient, First Sergeant Leonard Funk. What he did, they were doing some patrols. He gets captured. German officer tells him, puts a pistol to his stomach and says, all right, give me your machine pistol. And he slowly starts to remove it, and he fired and killed the German and was able to take over. Alvin York, First Sergeant Funk, are the only two Medal of Honor recipients of the 82nd that received it live. And here is the Medal of Honor that was given to First Sergeant Funk by President Harry Truman. And of course the citation.
So his family donated his Medal of Star?
When he passed away, they donated all his awards and decorations and pistol that he used during the Battle of the Bulge. More equipment was used on the Battle of the Bulge.
So you ever wondered why we don't use some of the stuff no more? Like, far as is that a bazooka?
Panzerfaust. What do you think the law is? Light anti-tank weapon.
Okay.
It came from the idea of that. This is the uniform that General General Gavin wore during the Battle of the Bulge. So you can see a nice warm uniform.
This was the extreme cold weather gear?
Oh, that's as extreme as they got. After the Battle of the Bulge, which lasted about 3 months, they go back to France to rest, recuperate, and they do one more assault in Central Europe, and they're going to be crossing the Elbe River in Germany. It is during this time frame, as they're doing the crossing, some of the 82nd soldiers discover this concentration camp at Wobelin. Now, this was not a death camp, which means it didn't have any gas chambers, it didn't have no ovens to kill the Jews, but it was a work camp. They worked the people to death. Around the woods line over here, they discovered 800 bodies. Inside the barracks, they discovered another 200 bodies.
So This was in Central Europe.
Yeah.
So this was a American base camp?
No, it was a German concentration camp.
Okay. And they found German bodies, not American bodies?
Jews.
Okay, Jews. Okay.
So what happened was the Allies started to find a whole bunch of concentration camps throughout Europe and everything. And it was decided that the people of the town would help to, get the bodies taken care of, prepare the bodies for burial. And Gavin did the same thing to the people of Ludwig, where this, and I really murdered the name, but anyway, of the town, so they could prepare the bodies and bury them. And this was found on May the 2nd, and then May 8th was Victory in Europe Day, which means the war in Europe was over. More captured equipment, weapons that we used.
Weapons that who used, Chief?
Americans and against us.
So why is there that's a swastikas, right?
Yep.
So that represents who?
Nazis, the Germans,
Okay.
the bad guys.
Okay.
Now, after the war, you had all these soldiers in Europe. Okay, we're not fighting here anymore. We're fighting in the Pacific. We're going to send these guys home. How are we going to do it? They used a point system as to how many campaigns have you been on? How many awards do you have? How many dependents you've got back home? And they started to add all these up. And then when they reached a certain number, and I believe it was 85, you were able to go home. In World War I, what happened was they would get soldiers just arrive in country, like around October, about 2 weeks before World War I was over. World War I would be over and then they'd go home first. But what about the soldiers that had been there from the beginning? So that's why they come up with a point system. And when it was discovered that the 82nd had a lot of high pointers, a lot of soldiers that had many points, okay, we got to send them home. How are we going to do this? Because we have to pull occupation duty in Berlin. So it was decided that the 17th Airborne Division, which was in Europe at the time, their low pointers would be changed over to the 82nd, and the 82nd high pointers would be put in the 17th and be able to go home, which is what we see right here. This is the 17th Airborne Division patch, and you see on this ascot the outline of the patch.
Okay.
So this soldier that had this had been a low pointer, but ended up being reassigned to the 82nd and came home when the 82nd came home at the end of 45. While they're pulling occupation duty, they would have football games against the other units that were there. Working Nazi German groups would have come up with their own knives to show the world that we're here. And when a soldier was discharged, he would receive this diamond-shaped patch and a lapel, which we call it, was called a ruptured duck. And they also got the occupation duty for their Berlin occupation. And it was decided that the 82nd would be coming home and do the victory parade in New York City. So the 82nd leads the parade in New York City, and all the soldiers that had been there came home. As the years went by after World War II, the 82nd is still a reserve division on active duty. So they stay there. They're not inactivated like the other airborne units were. And when they came back after the parade, they go, okay, go find yourself a home. They go, okay, well, we'll go to Fort Bragg. And when they come to Fort Bragg, is the first time that they're here as a permanent duty station, Where they were here before, they were just here for training. So now we've got to start changing from a wartime to a peacetime, to a Cold War, to the tensions, because the friends that we had in World War II are now our enemies, and our enemies are now our friends. The Russians were our friends. The Germans were our enemies. But then the Cold War starts, and now the Russians are against us. The Germans are with us. So now we have to come up with a rapid deployment force, and it was decided the 82nd was going to be such a force. And the thing is also is that President Truman said, okay, we got to integrate our soldiers, our units. We can't have an all-black battalion, all-black companies. They have to get them all together. The 555 was a parachute infantry battalion. It was the only black battalion we had. So it was decided that, okay, it gets inactivated and gets put into the 505 regiment as part of President Truman's integration. Which is why, because of our role of being a rapid deployment force, which is why the 82nd does not get involved in the Korean conflict. A lot of their soldiers are transferred out, and then they come back in, but not the division as a whole. And we start doing other things, was rapid deployment force, jumping in during a mass jump. I've been in situations like that. It is crowded.
How many people usually, that's a mass jump, how many people usually jump?
Let's see, so you're talking about, for example, a C-130, 62 jumpers, and about 10 of them. You're talking 6 to 1,000 people, depending on the number of aircraft. Here's the guide on for the 555 headquarters. The 82nd also performs a humanitarian multi-force and observers in the Sinai. The Airborne has a lot of traditions. One of the traditions is that when a person graduates jump school, gets assigned to the 82nd or any airborne unit, and it's their first jump, they're given a red helmet to show that they're making their first jump as a unit. But later on, it became it's harassment and everything, so they stopped doing that tradition.
Well, they start picking on them or something, Chief?
Well, we knew who was the rookie jumper, and then by him having to wear a red helmet, it kind of like somebody said, nah, it's not kosher. But the thing is that we had a conflict in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and it was taking all the news media away. But there's situations in the Dominican Republic, and on the 29th of April, the 3rd Brigade was alerted to go down there and see what the situation was. They go in, they were supposed to jump in, but instead they air landed. They guard the Duarte Bridge. They fight with the rebels. And the thing is, this operation was a strictly North Carolina driven operation, because you had members of the 7th Special Forces Group from Fort Bragg, 82nd out of Fort Bragg, the airmen out of Pope Airfield out of North Carolina, and the Marines of Camp Lejeune. But like I said, because of Vietnam, this one doesn't get as much notoriety. And Colonel, the 3rd Brigade commander, now it's time for the 82nd to move on again. In 1968, MACV, Military Assistance Command Vietnam, wanted the 82nd to come up and fight in Vietnam. The division commander told him, hey, look, I'm still got that rapid deployment force thing that I have. All right, send me a brigade. The 3rd Brigade gets alerted. The battalion commander, or the brigade commander, was getting ready to play golf. The driver comes up and says, sir, the general needs to see you. He reports to division headquarters, reports to the CG, and says, all right, yes, sir. He says, Colonel, your brigade's going to be alerted for Vietnam. He says, not without me. He says, oh no, you're leaving tomorrow. So the next day, the colonel, the sergeant major, and the battle staff left for Vietnam on the 13th of February, 1968. The following day, 14th February, the 3rd Brigade starts to prepare to leave. Just as the first airplane is starting to taxi tower says, go back to your starting point, Air Force One is coming in. President Johnson came in and shook every man's hand, spoke to every man before they left for Vietnam. It took them 4 days to get the whole brigade out of here. Not just people, but trucks and other equipment. It was a logistical nightmare that was captured and done very well. We get different types of uniforms. This particular flag was in forward operating base hardcore. When it closed, the first sergeant from B Company 1508 got the flag, and then he donated the flag about 6-7 years ago. And I say we because this is during my time frame. And also this is where we get another Medal of Honor recipient, Felix Conte Falcon. He is the other person that the M16 machine gun, captured Vietnamese equipment.
That kind of looked like a 240 Bravo.
Well, that's the grandfather.
Okay. So it's a little bigger than 249.
I haven't seen a 249, to tell you the truth.
It's a lot smaller than that.
In Colonel Bowling, the 3rd Brigade commander, his call sign was Knight Rider. He was also a helicopter pilot, and this is the helmet that he wore, and here he is. He would deploy the division or the brigade to Vietnam, and while in country, he makes 1 star, and another general comes in. And the brigade comes back after almost 24 months in Vietnam. They come back in December of 1969, and I was already here when they came back. We went from 3 brigades to 4 brigades with the 82nd. When the 3rd Brigade came back, and we're back to 3. As you can see, the crossings.
So what is this right here?
All right, this is to not to kill him. What happens is they're put on the ground on the path you're walking. As you can see, it's got a hook at the top. So when it goes in, it'll come in, it goes into the body, and then when you take it out, you take more of the body portion out, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the little nasty tricks we learned from Charlie. But we didn't dip him in the same stuff he did. Now, the Vietnamese, they have pamphlets, and this particular one was used by as a propaganda and were distributed in South Vietnam, Chinese. But the 82nd gets the word that they're coming home, and everybody's happy. After Vietnam, we went through a time frame of no conflicts. So this was, in a way, a good time to be an Army recruiter because you could sell the education and experience that you get as a mechanic, whatever the case may be. And finally, everything is going good. But like everything else, things happen in 1984. The 82nd is prepared to jump into Grenada. This is a mock-up of the airstrip that was used as a drop zone. The Rangers jump in like around 2 o'clock in the morning, and the 82nd is supposed to come in and jump in at 6 o'clock, but as the aircraft are coming in, they didn't have no contact with the drop zone, and the CG says airland. They air landed, and the soldiers were upset because they didn't get to jump in and get the combat started. This is also the first time that the Kevlar helmet saw combat. There were 2 helmets, and this one, the soldier decided, no, I'm going to keep it and turn it in. The other one was sent up to Native laboratories in Massachusetts where they did some experiments. They cut it all up, and you can still see the bullet hole stuck in the Kevlar. After the Grenada operation in 1983, a couple of years later, we have the situation in Panama, and the 82nd gets called out, and they do conduct a combat jump, and it's the first combat jump that the 82nd did since World War II. They're there, and Noriega gets captured, and this is one of the uniforms that he had, some more pieces that belonged to in his office. And here's the General Johnson's BDU jacket. As you can see on the jump wings, he has a gold star because he jumped in. And you can look at the entrenching tool, it has a bullet hole.
And what year this was right here?
89, December 89. One of the parachutes that was airdropped. One of the armored tanks landed in the swamp. Their information out, and the tank was destroyed in place. We have the same thing, the tank up on our air park, and that got airdropped over there and was brought back.
Okay.
Again, we go back into a peaceful mood until 1991. Kuwait, and the 82nd gets called out. So the Desert Seal begins. The plugger, the GPS, different equipment.
I see the 9 mil.
Yep.
Haven't changed.
Nope. Yeah, but and the division deployed. Again, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare. We had to, the soldiers were putting Mach 4 gear at all times, masks and everything, because we didn't know what Saddam would do. Powers get hit, the global war on terrorism started. And then the 82nd gets called out. They do different patrols, different operations, enduring freedom. The tokens that were used by the soldiers, they were monetary tokens, because regular change was hard to come by, so they just had those.
Yeah, we used those when I was deployed to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
I still got some of those.
When General Rodriguez, the division commander, he goes out to visit the soldiers at some of the bases, he wears a camouflaged Santa hat. Specialist Monica Brown received a Silver Star from Vice President Cheney. Into Afghan Consolidation 2. More soldiers of the 4th Brigade at the time. The combat aviation was did by the 82nd. Some of the things that some of our soldiers donated to us. Captain Minshew, and the little parachute flag that he used.
When was this? When was this right here?
Let's see.
Cause I'm looking at the uniform. That looked kind of recent.
Well, it was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Different the operations in Afghanistan and Syria. Kimberly Hampton, our first combat. transition of Iraq, more captured weapons, flags. I'm quite sure you've seen the LBE change from what pretty much you had when you first started. I know.
It changed from what, Chief?
The load-bearing equipment. You know, mine was like what General Ridgway had. Look what they have now. Well, not now, but look at this one. We didn't have that when I was in.
Okay. No, it don't even look like that no more.
Oh no, it's a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda posters. Soldiers showing Iraqi soldiers how to do different things. The uniforms have changed drastic. Went from the chocolate chip to this one. ISIS banner.
I had a question too, Chief. What was I finna say? I had a question back there I was meaning to ask. I'll think about it.
Okay. And this last deployment that 1st Brigade deployed within hours to Afghanistan, brought back a banner and a flag, crest of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And if you come down, you know, or you can go up and you can see the different uniforms of kind of what we have today. You see the LB. This is what I'm used to.
That is
Load-bearing equipment we
okay.
used. A little bit different from what you have now. A little bit, a lot.
Yes, sir.
This concludes, and here's a picture of our former division sergeant majors.
This is what division? 82nd Division, Chief?
Division sergeant major. From the first one to, and these are former division sergeant majors. And Sergeant Major John Pierce is the only one that has done it twice. 68 to 71 and 73 to 78.
Okay.
And these are former division commanders from January 86 to July 20. When we do the change of command with the current division commander, his picture will come up here. And here are the division commanders from the beginning. And remember I told you that from 1921 until the time it gets recalled back to active duty, this is the reserve component. I have the names of all the commanders. While this was being made, so we had to put unknown, we've got an idea as to who they are. Now trying to find pictures so that we could try to get this redone.
Okay.
We good? That's about it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No problem. My pleasure.
And can you let the people know, let them know where to come and what times and stuff like that?
We're open to the public Tuesday to Saturday from 10 to 4:30. If you want to do watch the video, we have a 25-minute video with the history of the 82nd. We also have a gift shop. It has a lot of 82nd related objects. And with, I don't know when this is going to be broadcasted, but with Christmas just around the corner, they got a lot of stocking stuffers in there.
Mm-hmm.
We also have an air park with the different types of aircrafts that the 82nd has used in the past. We've got C-119s, 123s, C-7, or C-46, C-47, and a C-130. We also have a Kiowa helicopter, or excuse me, we have a helicopter that was used by the 82nd, taken off the 82nd books, and was retired, and we were able to get it back. We're located on Ardennes Street, just down from the La Flamme Dental Clinic, right next to the 82nd Hall of Heroes. We'll be happy to see you and talk with you, okay? Airborne.
Appreciate that, Chief.
Ain't
I'm
no
gonna go out here and check out some of this stuff outside.
Okay. I'll let you take it out. Yes, sir, second done.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Okay.
care.
Appreciate that, Chief.
Yep.
Y'all see, we got done with the inside part of the video. We headed outside. There's some stuff out here that I saw. Wanted to check out. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna check it out, show y'all real quick what it. So this right here is M1A1. So y'all can see this right here. They used this in World War II. Looked like some type of missile, rocket launcher or something. So y'all can see we Airborne War Museum. Just some of the stuff that's outside. The All Americans, dedicated to the memory of those so this is a list right here. Yeah, so hopefully y'all like the video. This is just something new that I'm doing, just to give y'all some of the stuff that I see, you know, something different other than the videos, other than the interviews. So make sure y'all let me know if y'all like this type of videos where I show like different type of museums and different type of attractions. And get down in the comments. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And that's it. I'll see you guys at formation.